During the later stages of the Second World War, the Luftwaffe struggled to maintain air superiority, leaving German ground forces increasingly vulnerable to relentless Allied ground attack aircraft. Among the hardest hit were the Panzer divisions, whose large vehicles stood out conspicuously despite efforts to camouflage them with foliage. Due to the lack of fighter cover, the only thing often standing between a panzer and a bomb was an anti-aircraft half-track. While useful, these half-tracks had a notable flaw. They were vulnerable to the very aircraft they were supposed to protect against. To address this issue, the concept of a tank-based anti-aircraft vehicle known as a Flakpanzer emerged as a solution. These vehicles offered the necessary survivability against aircraft machine gun and cannon armaments while retaining the mobility and parts commonality with tanks. By 1943, the 3.7 cm Flakpanzer IV was in development, albeit at a relatively slow pace. In response to this delay, the Germans opted for a temporary solution, resulting in the creation of the Flakpanzer 38T in November 1943. During the initial phase of the Second World War, the Luftwaffe effectively shielded German ground forces from Allied aerial attacks. However, this did not mean that the Panzer divisions and other ground units were defenseless on their own. The Wehrmacht utilized a range of anti-aircraft weaponry, spanning from standard machine gun mounted on simple anti-aircraft mounts to specialized anti-aircraft artillery like the famous 88. These were predominantly towed weapons, ideal for supporting slow-moving infantry, but lacking the necessary mobility to keep pace with faster mechanized formations. Panzer divisions were renowned for their formidable combined firepower and mobility. Once having penetrated the enemy lines, they swiftly maneuvered into the rear, disrupting organized retreats and causing significant chaos. Since traditional towed anti-aircraft guns weren't well suited for this type of warfare, a need arose for a more agile weapon system capable of keeping pace with the fast-moving tanks. To address this demand, the Germans employed a series of half-tracks offering a balanced blend of firepower and mobility. Though effective in their roles, these half-tracks were notably deficient in armor, rendering them susceptible to enemy return fire. Developing a mobile self-propelled anti-aircraft vehicle based on a tank chassis was deemed a next logical step, as such a vehicle would offer the mobility and survivability of a tank. Wanting a quick fix while waiting for an actual Flakpanzer to enter production, 24 ammunition supply tanks based on the Panzer I were modified in the field in 1941 by installing a 2 cm Flak 38 on top. In 1942, it was proposed that future Flakpanzers should be based on the chassis of the new light tanks that were in development at that time, the Panzer II Ausf.L, Lux, and Leopard. Since Lux entered production late and Leopard was never even finished, the idea was canned. The overstretched German industry at the time simply could not afford to introduce yet another tank model into production. Consequently, basing future Flakpanzer on any experimental tank chassis was out of the question, leading the Germans to opt for the simplest solution available. They repurposed an existing modern design which was already in mass production, Panzer IV. Initiated in 1943, this project involved installing a 4-barrel 2 cm Flak 38 on a modified Panzer IV hull. This armament was soon replaced with a single, more robust 3.7 cm anti-aircraft gun, and the vehicle was approved for production as Flakpanzer IV, also known by its nickname Möbelwagen, meaning furniture van. If you are interested in finding out more about this vehicle, you are in luck, for we have already created a video covering it in detail. However, since putting the Möbelwagen into production would take time, a temporary solution was required. The stopgap solution had to be as cost-effective as possible. Fortunately for the Germans, they already had the proven Panzer 38T chassis in production. Originally a Czechoslovak tank design, the Germans acquired it after occupying the country in 1939. The Panzer 38T was produced in relatively large numbers and saw combat from the invasion of Poland to the war's conclusion, establishing itself as an effective early war tank. However, by late 1941, it became evident that it was becoming obsolete as a first-line combat tank. Nonetheless, the Panzer 38T chassis was still mechanically reliable and highly adaptable for other purposes, features that the Germans exploited to the fullest. Due to these factors, in October 1943, the Inspection der Panzertruppen 6, Armored Troops Inspection Office 6, issued an order to the BMM, a company primarily responsible for producing and developing vehicles based on Panzer 38T, to commence the development of a new SBAAG. Due to the urgency of the order, BMM engineers opted for repurposing the chassis of a Marder 38T Ausf.L, which was already in production. Following the inspection of the prototype by German military officials, an order of 141 such vehicles was issued in October. Production started in November 1943 and ended in February 1944. Some sources suggest that at least 10 more chassis were constructed but were repurposed to serve as self-propelled artillery instead. Various designations were attributed to this vehicle in different sources, one being Panzerkampfwagen 38 für 2 cm Flak 38 Ausf.L. However, today it is commonly known simply as the Flakpanzer 38T, the term we will use throughout this video. The supposed nickname Gepard seems to have never been utilized by the Germans, rather, it appears to be a post-war addition. The new Flakpanzer 38T utilized the standardized Marder 38T Ausf.M chassis, which differed from the original tank, as the engine was relocated to the middle of the vehicle. This allowed for the conversion of the rear section into a fighting compartment, while maintaining the position of the front-mounted transmission unchanged. The angled glacis armor featured an inspection hatch that provided the crew access to the brake and transmission compartment. The hull and other components were constructed using riveted armored plates, with welding utilized to a lesser extent. The suspension of the Flakpanzer 38T remained largely unaltered from that of the standard Panzer 38T. It featured 4 large road wheels paired and suspended using semi-elliptical leaf spring units. Additionally, it included a front drive sprocket, rear idler, and a single return roller. The Flakpanzer 38T was powered by a Praga AC 150 horsepower engine. Delivering power at 2,600 RPM, weighing approximately 9.8 tons, it boasted a top speed of 42 km per hour on roads and 20 km per hour off-road. Its operational range extended to 185 km on regular terrain and 140 km across rugged landscape. Featuring a redesigned superstructure, the Flakpanzer 38T was segmented into 3 parts. Positioned at the forefront was the driver's compartment, followed by the enclosed engine bay in the middle, and finally the fighting compartment at the rear. On the standard Panzer 38T, the driver and radio operator were positioned side by side. However, in the Flakpanzer 38T, the radio operator position was eliminated. Meanwhile, the driver occupied a dedicated compartment situated on the front right side of the vehicle's hull. Entry and exit was done through a split hatch on the top, with 2 observation ports located in the front and on the right side. The engine compartment was centrally located within the vehicle. Atop this compartment, 2 large hatches were installed to allow the crew access to the engine itself. The fighting compartment, situated at the rear of the vehicle, housed a 2 cm Flak 38. It featured an open top but was protected by an 8-sided shield. Each of the shield panels could be folded down, leaving only the gun shield for crew protection. Despite its open design, it offered crew members an advantageous view of the surroundings, enabling them to scan the sky for enemy aircraft. Within this compartment, essential tools and equipment were stowed, such as ammunition, radio equipment, personal belongings of the crew, etc. As for armament, the Flakpanzer 38T boasted a 2 cm Flak 38 anti-aircraft cannon. This cannon saw widespread use, not only on the Flakpanzer, but also on various other German vehicles, including half-tracks, trucks, and armored trains. The integration of the 2 cm Flak 38 into Flakpanzer 38T's fighting compartment necessitated several modifications. The original 3-legged mount of the Flak 38 was removed. In its place, a hexagonal-shaped metal base was installed to securely accommodate the gun within the compartment. While the gun had the capability to traverse a full 360 degrees even with the armor plates raised, its elevation was restricted under these conditions. For effective utilization of the gun, the upper fighting compartment plates needed to be lowered. Its elevation in this case ranged from -10 degrees to +90 degrees. The gun boasted a maximum effective range of 2 km against air targets and 1.6 km against ground targets. Its maximum rate of fire ranged between 420 and 480 rounds, with a practical rate of fire typically falling between 180 to 220 rounds. The ammunition load comprised approximately 1,040 rounds, including 720 high explosive and 320 armor-piercing rounds. To prevent spent cartridges from cluttering the fighting compartment, the original net basket was retained. Ammunition was usually stored beneath the gun mount and along the sides of the fighting compartment. The vehicle boasted light protection, with its maximum hull armor measuring only 20 mm. The side armor was slightly thinner at 15 mm, while the rear armor stood at 10 mm and the bottom was 8 mm thick. The superstructure armor that protected the gun crew was a mere 10 mm thick. Crewing the Flakpanzer 38T were 4 crew members. The driver occupied the hull of the vehicle, while the commander gunner, loader, and radio operator were situated within the compact fighting compartment at the rear. The Flakpanzer 38T were organized into 12 vehicle anti-aircraft platoons, which were then assigned to Wehrmacht and SS divisions. These divisions included the 2nd, 21st, and 26th, as well as the Lehrpanzer Division, 90th, and 29th Panzer Grenadier Divisions. Additionally, they were utilized by the 9th, 10th, and 12th SS Panzer Divisions and the Hermann Göring Panzer Division. The majority of Flakpanzer 38Ts produced saw service on the Western Front in 1944 and 1945. When the Allies invaded France in June 1944, around 84 of these vehicles were still in service. While facing overwhelming Allied air superiority, the available Flakpanzer 38T had limited effectiveness in protecting the German forces. Nonetheless, they managed to bring down numerous Allied aircraft. For instance, the crews of one vehicle from the 12th SS Panzer Division alone succeeded in shooting down 5 enemy aircraft. This division primarily focused on defending Caen. By July 9th, when the Allies finally breached the German defenses, the 12th SS Panzer Division was left with only 25 Panthers, 19 Panzer IVs, and a few Flak vehicles. In December 1944, the Flakpanzer 38T took part in the last major German offensive in the West, known as Operation Northwind. By the end of December 1944, the 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division had 6 Flakpanzer 38T and 4 Flakpanzer IV Wilberwind in its inventory, most of which were fully operational. A total of 48 Flakpanzer 38Ts were dispatched to Italy, divided among the 26th Panzer Division, 29th and 90th Panzer Grenadier Division, and the Panzer Division Hermann Göring. However, very few of these vehicles were engaged in combat on the Eastern Front. For instance, by the end of 1944, the 2nd Panzer Division had only 3 Flakpanzer 38Ts deployed on that front. Due to their limited production, the Flakpanzer 38T was a rare sight on the battlefields during the latter stages of the Second World War. With the overwhelming air superiority of the Allies, these vehicles stood little chance. This concludes our video on the German Flakpanzer 38T. What do you think of this attempt to create a light stopgap solution? Was a vehicle armed with only one 2cm cannon even worth putting into production? Share your opinions in the comment section below. If you have not done so already, we invite you to subscribe to stay updated on future content. If you'd like to contribute further, consider supporting us on Patreon or PayPal. Your contribution helps us create more engaging videos. Until next time, stay focused and stay tuned.